Jordan. Open. Chicago with the lead.
Minute remaining. And they're putting Curry in the pick and roll, trying to get him on Ervin. Ervin and Curry, one-on-one. Ervin puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown.
We're sending it in, Jerome. That's for damn sure.
Yes. What is up, everybody? Welcome to Tap Room Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jordan. Stacks on stacks, lads. Joined with my guys, Mr. Aaron Kidd and Swervin Ervin Washington. This is our first installment of the college football preview show. We'll be going through every major conference in FBS and handicapping win totals, division odds, etc. Our first installment is Conference USA. Before we get to that, I do need to let you know we are being brought to you by Tavour. Make sure to go to Tavour.com or download the Tavour app straight to your mobile device and use promo code TAPROOM for $10 off your first purchase of $25 or more. Also, head on over to our YouTube, youtube.com/@TaproomSportsPodcast. Make sure to subscribe. Get all the notifications of when we go live for all of our shows. With that being said, fellas, welcome. How we doing tonight?
Doing good.
Doing great, Jordan. Excited to be here and excited to get rolling on football. It's hard to believe we're already sitting here grinding out football.
Yes, sir. We can finally put fucking MLB in the fucking rear view. Almost. Shit is pissing me off, man. Fuck the Padres. They won today, finally, but it took us a few tries to get there, dude.
My exact text to Jordan was, "You have more balls than I have, or bigger balls than me." So I couldn't do it. I was so frustrated with that team. I think you talk about all the time, Jordan. That team lacks heart, man, and they came out swinging today. But it was just the perfect spot for them today. But I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, it is tough to back them. I don't know if I'll back them for a minute, but I did feel like today, like if the way they lost last night with the blocking the catcher call and everything, I felt like they just were like pissed off and had to come back. But yeah, that's baseball, man. We'll be back tomorrow, by the way, to talk more baseball. Friday night baseball show. So you're definitely gonna want to tune into that. 8:15 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11:15 Eastern Standard Time. Go through all the games and get some best bets for Saturday. But we're here to talk college football, so we're talking Conference USA today. All right, it is Aaron. Before we came on, we were talking about how this conference just seems to always have new teams every single year. It's no different this year. This year, they also are adding 2 teams from FCS that are making the jump up to FBS in Sam Houston State and Jacksonville State.
It was 3.
Well, New Mexico State was independent last year.
Yep.
But they are adding
James Madison. Didn't they add James Madison too?
No, James Madison's in the Sun Belt, the Fun Belt.
Oh, okay.
They've been FBS for last year was their first year FBS, right?
Okay.
Yeah, they actually had a pretty good year last year.
Yeah. So there's a lot of new teams in this conference. Obviously, they had Liberty, who was also independent last year. And then, like I said, Sam Houston State, New Mexico State, and Jacksonville State added to the conference as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through these win totals. We're going to go from bottom to top and kind of break down the teams. If, not every team, obviously, we're going to like a bet, but we'll find a lean. And we'll talk through some of these teams and go from there, man. So the very first team, their win total this year is 2.5 wins, and that's FIU Panthers, coached by the San Jose State legend Mike McIntyre. So we'll start with you, AK. What's your thoughts on FIU heading into this season?
Well, everybody knew that McIntyre was kind of inheriting a full rebuild there, so kind of no surprise here. Me and you were talking off air, but Lexington Joseph was kind of a bright spot for them last year. Should have been their starting running back this year. He suffers a torn ACL injury in spring practice, unfortunately. And unfortunately, 3 of their best defensive players that I thought was going to return this year seemed like they're all transferred out as well. So might be a long year for them for Grayson James and Mac McIntyre there.
Yeah, I agree. Probably lose their 2 best players in total on the entire team if you think about it. Also losing Strickland, who after spring decided to jump in the portal and leave on defense. So it is going to be very tough. Go ahead.
That was already a defense that allowed almost 38 points per game last year. So
yep, they were 11th in the conference in points per game, averaging 41.1 points per game, dude. Unbelievable bad defense. And honestly, the best part of their defense was the defensive line, and they lose 3 of those guys going into next year. Irv, you have any thoughts on FIU and where you lean with this team? You got them winning the division or what?
What's the odds with the conference?
Oh, probably like
it's
what is
plus
it?
6,000.
Yeah, looking at this schedule, will they even be? They play. Okay,
Probably
they
be
play.
favored in 1 game. I see.
They
Maybe
played
2.
2 of the FCS schools, so they might beat one of them.
What other I only see one FCS school. What other FCS school they play?
You said Jacksonville State is joining the conference and Sam Houston, right?
Yeah, but they're FBS now. The only
Yeah, they're
I know,
FBS now.
Yeah, they're FBS now, but it's their inaugural season, so yeah, I would lean the under. I don't see 2 wins on this schedule.
I think it's a gift that Louisiana Tech is laying 9.5 points, only laying 9.5 points to FIU in the first game of the season
Yeah,
at
you
home.
better take that now. they might beat Maine. I don't see them beat nobody else on their schedule.
The 3 of us may strap on the pads and go out there and play for them this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I got some eligibility left.
That's right.
They're gonna be terrible, bro.
I think we've gambled on too many games for that.
Yeah, I'm surprised their over under is 2.5. It should be 1.5.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, it's juice to the over too, minus 145 on DraftKings. Because I don't know where they're gonna like. Okay, we'll give them Maine. They're probably a favorite in that game, but outside of that, who they favored against?
They might can North Texas is super unpredictable, but I don't see them being that bad to lose to FIU.
Yeah.
Yeah, bro. I see 1 win on this schedule. That's it.
It's insane, dude. I don't know what's going on with this one. All right, so we all kind of lean the under on FIU.
Yeah, McIntyre, you got to go to the portal like Dion and get about 50 players, bro.
Well, I mean, I thought this was going to be a long rebuild regardless.
Yeah, it's going to be a very long rebuild.
He took over
mess. What he inherited was a disaster.
Last year,
their home game tickets start at $5.
Yeah.
Last year they only had where is it? Last year they only had 23 scholarship players on their roster.
Damn.
This year they're up to 85. So a little bit better.
They won 3 games last year.
Yeah, they did.
If you guys wanted to throw $20 on them to win the Conference USA Championship, I would advise going and buying a $20 lottery scratch ticket instead.
Yeah, you might as well.
Yeah, I agree.
This is gonna be ugly.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely agree. All right, let's move over to our next team. This is a team that is making the jump from FCS to FBS. This is Sam Houston State, whose win total is at 4. Under is even money, over juiced minus 125 at DraftKings. For those that are unaware, Sam Houston is actually an FCS powerhouse. Usually, they're always within those top 4 teams year in and year out. Last year, they kind of prepared for the FBS jump, so they redshirted a lot of their guys heading into this year. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Casey Keeler has been the head coach there for 10 years, very successful head coach. What do you guys think about Sam Houston going into this year at 4 wins?
Well, you kind of nailed it.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, AK.
Oh, I just you kind of nailed it, man. They're always a powerhouse in FCS, and anybody that watches college basketball that watches this show, I rode them a lot this past year in college basketball. So Sam Houston State's been good to me there. I think their defense will be their strength of their team. As Jordan said, they kind of eluded a couple guys in preparation for the jump. A couple of names to listen out for. Jordan Morris will probably be one of the better corners in Conference USA this year, and along with Trevor Williams. they got to figure out the offense. They only returned one starter from last year, which is huge. But I think Grant Gunnell, which if you guys follow college football at all, he's about as old as we are. I think he started at Arizona and played a little bit in North Texas. But Alston, I've never said his name right. From last year kind of overtook him in North Texas. But that could be a dark horse if you're looking for a dark horse, in my opinion. Everybody always kind of fades these teams coming from FCS to FBS, but look at the Appalachian states, as you mentioned earlier, the JMU's. Those all are teams that have had success in their first year in the FBS, so it can be done.
Yep. I think a lot of people get scared off by the FCS because obviously it's not the same conference, but when you look at Sam Houston State, like I said, that's a team that's had success in FCS. You know what I mean? It's not like this is a team that is like a consistent loser or anything. Like they produce high level talent guys year in and year out. So it is going to be interesting. I do think that, playing a full FBS schedule might catch up to them. They open at BYU, which is a tough game. Then they have Air Force, which is another very difficult team. Then they have to go to Houston, another great team. And then,
they did. They served no favors with their non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
But I guess jumping up to the FBS level, you want to just jump right in the thick of things. But the only thing I don't like about their schedule, they got a lot of back-to-backs on the road. And that's one thing I can admit last year I learned from Jordan. These road trips for college students are totally different than NFL. And if they're coming off a real physical game the week before, it could really take a toll having to practice, then hop on a plane, and then be in a hotel and then get ready for a game. So that affects college a lot different than it does NFL. So you want to keep that in mind when you're betting too. So
I also think
I actually love the over for them. I don't know why it's so low because it's only 4.5. I'm looking at the schedule. I easily see 6 or 7, maybe 8 wins.
What are you looking at, bro? They're gonna go 0-3 to start the year. First of all,
I know they're going 0-3 to start the year, but they could definitely beat Jacksonville State.
Yeah,
we don't know what we're gonna get out of Liberty. We know they're gonna have a good defense.
Yeah, but Irv, they gotta go. They gotta go back to back at Liberty and at New Mexico State. And New Mexico State, you can say what you want about them. That is a very physical football team.
Yeah, they're a physical.
We saw it last year.
But they offense is bottom 5. Their offense is horrible.
Their offense will be better this year.
They gotta find it. Do they got that same QB from last year?
Yeah, Pavia. He was nice in the bowl game though.
Yeah, you brought up the last game of the season. Don't
They
throw
won.
out the other 12, 13 games. I got them beating New Mexico State, beating FIU. They could definitely beat UTEP.
They'll beat Kennesaw State.
Is that Kent State?
Kennesaw.
Kennesaw State, they definitely could beat them. So that's 4 wins right there.
That back-to-back at Louisiana Tech and Western Kentucky, that's brutal, dude.
That's brutal, but we do know Louisiana Tech is always due for an upset. They lost to what's the name last year? FIU, so.
Yeah, but Louisiana Tech was bad last year.
Interesting fact about that Kennesaw State team, they'll be making a jump to Conference USA next year in football.
Interesting. Dang, a lot of teams making FBS jumps.
I don't know. I can see 5 to 7 wins. If they can upset any one of these first 3, which I doubt, the most likely upset would probably be Air Force. But Houston was pretty terrible last year, so they definitely got to bounce back. Yeah, I'll give them 5 wins. I'm a lean over.
I see like 2, maybe 3 guaranteed wins. A lot of, I don't know about beating New Mexico State, man.
New Mexico State is trash.
They're not, bro.
We'll get to that in a little bit. But New Mexico State's defense 2 years ago was atrocious, actually one of the worst in the country. They made a major improvement last year, though. So I agree with Jordan. I expect Sam Houston to probably go under the total here. Probably would be a no play for me, though, because once again, it's kind of hard to cap that first year jump from FCS to FBS because we've seen success, but we've also seen failure. So,
agreed. All right, so let's talk about those New Mexico State Aggies right now. Their win total is set at 5. Keep in mind, their win total was 2 last year, and they went way over it. So they definitely exceeded expectations last year. Jerry Kill's the head coach. For those that are unfamiliar with college football, Jerry Kill is a very decorated football coach in the college rankings. and his team plays like him, dude. He's a hard nose. You know, he's a grinder, man, and New Mexico State plays like that. If you watch them, I mean, they play some ugly football, dude, but they pull out some dubs. So they
We
went to those.
started off ugly though. Damn.
Well, I mean, you know, it's not how you start; it's how you finish. All right. Nah, this is gonna. I'm higher on this team this year than I was last year. I think this is gonna be an improved team. Diego Pavia, you're right, Irv. He's not like the prettiest quarterback out there. He only completed like 50% of his passes last year, but he did rush for almost 600 yards on top of throwing for 1450, and he was good in the bowl game. He was a reason why they won the bowl game. To be honest, against Bowling Green. They also returned their top 3 running backs in Star Thomas, Jamani Jones, and Amani Watkins. They lose their top wide receiver, but they bring back their next top 7 contributors from a year ago. And they also return almost their entire offensive line, and they add in a top JUCO offensive line transfer, which I think is only going to benefit them. So this is still a very experienced group here. They return 9 starters on offense total, 4 on defense. What's your thoughts, AK, on New Mexico State?
Well, I kind of agree with you. I think you saw kind of the jump. They won 2 games in 2021. They allowed 40 plus points a game. They made the jump, almost cut that in half last year. That was a big time win for them, winning that bowl last year. Almost like program altering wins. It felt like I was actually on New Mexico State in that game. When you look at dark horses to win the division, I mean the conference, New Mexico State's possible, man. You kind of mentioned about their head coach. He's a hard-nosed kind of guy. If you follow college football at all, you know him. I think their defense gets better. They only return 4 starters, but they are going to depend on a lot of underclassmen. You mentioned it. I think it's 2 junior college transfers they're going to have that are probably starting. You know, losing Dumas, who is probably going to be one of the better corners in Conference USA, that does hurt. But I looked for the step up from Diego Pavia this year. And when you start looking at their schedule, I mean, UMass is a winnable game. Western Illinois is a winnable game. Hawaii is a winnable game. Those are 3 games out of conference right there. They find a way to put a couple together in conference, which they will. I kind of like the over here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do think Hawaii is going to be improved, and playing at Hawaii is often a what's the best way to describe it? It's kind of like a trap game sometimes, because a lot of these teams go over there and it's Hawaii and it's almost like a vacation. So you see a lot of teams kind of get sucked into that a lot of times. But, you know, with Jerry Kill, I don't expect those kind of things to happen. I'm with you, AK. I like the over. I actually might get to the window with it, although it's juiced to the over -150, which I don't love. But you're right, dude. I mean, throwing a little couple shekels, a little pizza money on them to win the conference, I don't think it's a terrible idea either. Because I mean, this is a team that I could very well see it happening if things go their way. If Diego Pavia takes that step, I think that's a big key. All right, let's talk about our next team. We got the Jacksonville State Gamecocks, coached by the great Rich Rodriguez in his second year here. They are making the jump from FCS to FBS. This is their first year. What do you guys think about Jacksonville State? They were good last year, 9-2 on the season.
Honestly, it's going to all depend on their defense, because we know what Rich Rodriguez always hung his hat on. He's one of the better offensive minds of our generation. We know this team is going to put up points. The only concern is, can that defense keep up in any shape, form, or fashion?
Yeah, I agree, Irv. So go ahead, Jordan.
I was gonna say, I don't think they're gonna be able to rush for 253 yards next year game.
You could probably take about 40, 50 yards off that, maybe. Jumping up to the FBS level probably won't be that productive, but they're going to be good, because that's one thing Rich Rod does do, is run the ball, and
Yeah,
that wide open what's the spread, but you know, he runs more of like a power spread, because he's always been committed to the run game. So I don't think it's going to be 250 yards. If it's 250 yards, you could probably pencil them in. Probably could be a dark horse to make it to the conference championship, but I definitely think they're going to make some noise with that offense.
Yeah, I agree with Irv. A guy's name to listen out for is Anwar Lewis. And I know I didn't say his name right, but he actually might be a guy that may lead Conference USA in rushing this year, or be a guy that's up there with like the Deion Hankins of the world. Yeah, you kind of said it, Herb. The defense needs some retooling. Kind of on the back end of that, they had a couple linebackers and a couple corners transfer out. Didn't make the jump to FBS, but I look for this team to be competitive too. They still got a big play threat on the outside too. Sterling Galbon. He'll be looking to get the rock thrown to him. The only thing I question is Logan Smothers going to be the quarterback there? You know, I'm not really necessarily high on Logan Smothers, but Jacksonville State and Sam Houston both ineligible to win the championship in Conference USA this year. Just so anybody listening knows, that's why you can't find any odds on them.
Quite interesting too. I think Zion Webb's actually going to be their starter. AK.
Yeah, I think Webb is gonna be the starter from the video I watched. He led coming out of spring camp. So
yeah, but I didn't know. The last I had heard that his waiver hadn't gotten approved yet.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so yeah, and that's actually really good recent information that his waiver still hadn't gotten approved yet. So still to be seen on that.
Interesting. So you guys lean over. I don't know where I got them, dude. They're the biggest question mark to me, to be honest. It's a no play
It's
for
so
me.
hard to cap that jump from FCS to FBS. It used to be easy. Everybody just always kind of faded them, you know, coming out of the FCS. But because of the transfer portal and everything, it's made it so much easier for guys to make that jump from FCS to FBS. So,
Agreed.
very hard.
I mean, you just look at their schedule last year. I mean, they played like I don't even think they played an FBS team last year. Tulsa was their only FBS team they played last year. Every other team was FCS. So I mean, and they
what was the score on that game?
The Tulsa game.
Mm-hmm.
They lost 54-17.
Yep.
Dang.
That's what I'm saying. Like I could see a scenario where this team wins 8 games. I could see a scenario where they win 1. You know what I mean? Like I just think it's kind of. I don't want to get involved, is what I want to say. I want to see it first. All right. We got 2 teams.
Hey, Jordan, I'll also say this too. For anybody that's out there looking to make futures, you know, as someone here that I think everybody on the show was invested very heavily in Arizona Diamondbacks over. You know, I unfortunately invested in the Blue Jays before the season in baseball. My point of all that is just be conscious of the things you're doing, man. You don't have to bet every team over under. You don't have to bet every conference to win a championship. You know, I would say get a long list. It's kind of what I do, and then I try to narrow it down to like I usually like one that I just love, and that's kind of where I hammer, and then sprinkle some other things. So don't think you got to get stuck, you know, trying to cap every season win total and all that, and getting ahead of the market on these things because you can get yourself in some trouble. I've done it before.
100%, and you can also find value in the middle of the season as well. You know, last year I only played 3 win totals in college football, like in the entirety, right? And I went 3-0 on all of them, but it was 3 win totals I was absolutely confident in going over or under, right? So I played them, and you know, and then I also played Caleb Williams to win the Heisman before the season. If I waited 4 weeks into the season, I could have got him 12-1, 13-1, but instead I played him before the season. I got him 8-1. So my point is that you could find good value in the middle of the season depending on what you like. Like if you see a team's schedule and they have a tough schedule to start out, but you're like, man, they got a really easy end of the season schedule. Wait for those first couple of games. You know, if they go 1-1, you can get better value to win the division. So good stuff, AK. That's a really great advice there. All right, we got 2 teams that are 6.5 wins on their total in this division. The first one is Louisiana Tech, and you know we were kind of talking earlier today, and we kind of all have mixed feelings on this team here. So Irv, I'll let you go first because you seem to be the highest on Louisiana Tech. 6.5 wins, juice to the over -135.
Yeah, this is my dark horse to win the whole thing, to take Conference USA. But their biggest question mark is a position
defense
that you don't want a question mark at. Is the most important position, and that is quarterback. So I'm gonna have to wait. Is this the one? No, the dude from Boise State didn't transfer here. He transferred to.
No, Hank Bachmeier's at Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana. Yeah.
Okay, with Sonny Cumbie. So we know he's a Division One QB. He has the talent and the wherewithal to be a good Division One QB. He just got to stop turning the damn ball over. So if Sonny Cumbie can get him right, then I think Louisiana Tech will definitely have a say so with who wins Conference USA.
Louisiana Tech was one of the busier teams in the transfer portal this year too. Over almost half their team is going to come from the transfer portal. Some names that anybody that listens to the show is going to know: Dakotas Crawford from Nebraska. You know,
Dakotas.
Yep. Tyree Shelton, Miami, Ohio. Craig Williams, running back from Baylor. Man, they went shopping. Got a couple D linemen from Iowa State. Two guys, actually a really good linebacker of the name of Boateng from Akron, if anybody that follows the MAC.
Yep.
They got the Markham brothers from Arizona State as well. Man, this team went shopping.
Yeah.
Damn, they cleaned up in the portal.
Gabe Pugh from Alabama. Keyshawn Paul from Temple corner. I mean, they went shopping, man. So I see why you like this.
Yeah, but it's a lot of question marks. So you know what I mean. It's a
is they gonna fit the system? Are they gonna camaraderie? But you know, USC had a bunch of kind of transfer portal guys, and they pulled it together pretty damn well.
Yeah, but
we
USC also USC also got like high end transfer portal guys like Dakotas Crawford. There's a reason why he transferred out. He got no playing time last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but that could be a breakout guy though. Because don't forget,
he could, but like we don't know that. You know,
he was a borderline. He was a high 4-star, borderline 5-star. He has the talent. It's just Cumbie has to bring it out of him. And that offense, I'm pretty sure they're gonna put him at wide receiver / tailback. So I think he can definitely make a name for himself.
And every year I hear
Hank can't not talk about Smoke Harris as well. Smoke Harris is probably one of the better receivers in Conference USA. So if him and Bachmeier can figure it out with those ads, and actually we're forgetting about
Cyrus Allen. Cyrus Allen's probably their best wide receiver. He's a future NFL player.
Their defense has got to figure it out, man. Their defense averaged almost 38 points a game last year. So,
I'm gonna give Dakotas a pass because he was with the Cornhuskers last year, and that team was terrible. So,
every year, dude, I hear Hank Bachmeier is gonna turn the corner. He's gonna be a fucking Heisman candidate. Every fucking year for the last 3 years, dude. And this dude has never put it together. I mean, if he doesn't this year, it's a wrap. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, he'll be on the XL. He'll be in the USFL or XFL next year. But this is his shot, and he's being coached by a pretty damn good coach. So if he can't be successful under Sonny Cumbie, he probably won't be too much successful under anybody. So, but like AK said, it all depends on the defense. I think this offense is going to be very solid. One of the better offense, probably the first or second best offense in the conference, because we haven't talked about the team that most people is picking, and I think they will probably have the most explosive offense. We'll get to them, but this offense has potential to be very, very good. It's just if this defense is going to be giving up 40 points, it's going to be hard to outscore everybody. So that's what they got to fix for sure.
Agreed.
But they added a lot of guys on that side of the ball. So
yeah, I mean they definitely went out and tried to fix their defense. That's for sure. You know, if their defense isn't good, it's not because they didn't try. It's gonna be because of some other things. But all right, let's move over to the next team with the 6.5 win total. That's Middle Tennessee. The over is minus 130 at DraftKings. The under is even money. What do you guys think about Rick Stockstill in his 18th season? How his Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders are gonna look this season?
What a great football name, by the way. Rick Stockstill. I just love it. You know, when you talk about Conference USA, Jordan, me and you talked about it at the beginning of the show. It's kind of been a conference of turnover lately. Middle Tennessee State has kind of been one of those foundation pieces, if you will. They've kind of remained there and remained with some stability and some consistency. They've kind of always figured it out. Their defense struggled last year, averaging almost 7 yards per play. But Chase Cunningham came out of nowhere last year, had a big year. They upset Miami, you guys remember?
Yep.
And a big win there.
And they beat
I
San
think
Diego
they're always
State
a team that's going to I think they're always going to be competitive. they definitely start off with a pretty tough schedule. They're going to be beat around a little bit, starting off at Alabama. Then they have to go to Missouri. So that's a pretty tough game to start off with at Alabama. But listen, you're talking about a team that's got 7 bowl trips in their last 10 years. So no matter what the changes to Conference USA, they've always kind of figured it out. But I'm not sure who's going to be a quarterback for them either. So that's another question mark.
Yeah, I agree. Right now, Nicholas Vadiato, if I pronounce that right, is penciled in. He started 5 games last year, completed 67% of his passes. Coaches say that he has a big, strong arm, which is good. But I mean, let's be real. He started last year and lost his starting job to Chase Cunningham for a reason. They do lose their second leading rusher in Darius Brace, and they return Frank Pleasant, who's a really good running back. They lose their top 3 wide receivers, so this is going to be a very inexperienced wide receiver group as well. So it's going to be interesting, but they are going to hang their hat on their defense. That's probably what's going to be the consistent piece here. I like them to go under, though. Alabama, Missouri. I also think Colorado State is going to be a much improved team this year. And they got to go at Western Kentucky, at Liberty, at New Mexico State. So they got a pretty difficult schedule in here. So I like the under in this one.
Yeah,
I do agree, Jordan. Their defense will be better too. 9 starters coming back.
Yep.
Yeah, give me the under. This team only passed less than 200 yards a game.
Yeah, they were all about running last year because Chase Cunningham.
Yeah, but you got to have a passing game against some of these teams, and they clearly don't have a dependable one yet. So until I see that, yeah, you can give me the under for them. And they got a lot of their toughest games are all on the road. So
Yep. I did skip over a team. My bad. Its win totals at 5.5. And it's the team that I'm the most high on in this conference. Which is UTEP Miners, baby. Dana Dimel in his 6th season. I mean, dude, talk about a guy that had to rebuild a program from the fucking absolute wreckage of the Titanic, dude. It's this one, you know what I mean? Like this was submerged in water, had to be brought all the way back up. He has a new offensive coordinator.
It's too early for those jokes.
I mean, I didn't mean it like that, but he has new offensive coordinator and Scotty O'Hara. They're returning the most starters of any team in this conference too, on both offense and defense. Obviously, the biggest question mark is, is Gavin Hardison going to be that guy? AK, you were talking about him before we went on air, saying you thought he was going to make a big leap last year, didn't really come. They might have the best running back in the conference in Deion Hankins as well. What do you guys think about UTEP?
This is an absolute boom or bust prediction for Jordan right here. It's either going to be all good or all bad.
Hey, I killed it with Maryland last year, dude.
I do agree that Deion Hankins is probably the best running back in the league. Something that's going to hurt them. Tyron Smith, who was probably the best tackle in Conference USA, transferred to Florida State. So
Jeremiah
going to
Byers.
be a little bit of Jeremiah Byers. Sorry, Tyron Smith was going to transfer to Texas A&M, one of their wide receivers. But last I heard, he's actually left Texas A&M again. So if he comes back to them, that's obviously a good shot in the arm for him. They've got a good defensive front, but you're talking about a secondary that finished 10th in Conference USA last year in pass efficiency. So we got to get that going in the right direction. That's a team that's not going to outscore you by any means. They're going to kind of, ground and pound you with Deion Hankins, control the clock, control the tempo. And, Gavin Hardison, he was honorable mention Conference USA 2021, the year after the COVID year. I'm like, okay, I remember them just getting massive points, and I just kind of hammered them for 4 straight games. Watched a lot of UTEP football in 2021. Come back last year, I'm like, okay, we're going to take that next step forward now. We're going to get going. And because they went to a bowl, they were 7-6 in 2021, went to a bowl. We're like, okay, here we go. And they kind of, fell off last year, didn't make a bowl. So I was a little disappointed with them. So I'd be curious to see. But you're right, man. They return. I know they lost Jeremiah Byers, but they still return a pretty good offensive line too. So they can kind of figure it out with Hankins and that line. I think they're going to be okay. I was actually watching some Deion Hankins highlights before we went on air. I was joking with Jordan about it, and that kid just runs hard, man. He runs freaking tough.
Yeah, he's He's a tough runner. Runs
Yeah.
behind his pads.
They had some good wins last year, and they had some terrible losses last year.
Yeah,
Yep.
they did. And AK's right. Like a big part of their problem was their secondary was awful. But to be honest, they were very inexperienced last year in their secondary, and all those guys are coming back. They're only losing one starter in their secondary, and they're returning everybody else. Plus, they have guys that they're bringing in that have starting experience, including AJ Aduma from New Mexico. And New Mexico is known for their defense. Irv knows how much I like to bet them last year and get killed by New Mexico because they can't fucking move the ball on offense. But that defense was stout, man. That defense could play. So I like UTEP here. And the biggest reason why, fellas, is because all of their tough games are at home. Jacksonville State at home. At Jacksonville State. They get Incarnate Word at home. They go to Northwestern. I'm not very high on Northwestern. At Arizona. They'll probably lose at Arizona. But then they get UNLV at home, a very winnable game. They get Louisiana Tech at home. They go to FIU, which they should be able to beat on the road. They get New Mexico State at home. They go to Sam Houston, and then they get Western Kentucky at home. Their most difficult conference game is at Middle Tennessee, which we all agree is not going to be as good as they were a year ago. So I think the schedule is the most in their favor in terms of conference play.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm actually just looking up, trying to figure out Tyron Smith. So yeah, so actually, he announced that he could return to UTEP. So he left Texas A&M's program. So they get him back at wide receiver. That's a huge shot in the arm. It adds a little versatility to their offense.
Yep, I agree. Definitely agree. They also added a bunch of JUCO transfers too, which is always good for experience. But who knows how they'll play.
Yeah, I think if you get that jump that I've been waiting on from Gavin Hardison, I think you got a shot there, Jordan, all day long.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Plus 1,400 to win the conference, 1,600. I mean, I think that's fair value. I think they could easily, with how I just laid out their schedule, I could easily see them being in the Conference USA Championship. Because remember, their non-conference schedule doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's their conference schedule that matters as far as winning the conference.
And that's how they're doing the Conference USA Championship this year. You know, they've always had two divisions and top two divisions. I mean, top winner from each division have played, but now they're just doing the top two teams this year.
Yep, which is good for them. All right, we have two more teams left. Western Kentucky, the total is 8.5 wins. Juice to the under at -150 on DraftKings, over +120. They are the favorite to win the conference, though, at most books, +125, +150. AK, we'll let you kick it off since you're in love with Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers.
So I will say I'm not in love with their season win total. I think I make the number 8, so it makes sense why it's juiced to the under. But man, Austin Reed, if you watch this kid play, I was actually on him against South Alabama, 10-2 South Alabama team last year in the bowl, and I can't exactly remember the score, but I think it was like 38-0, and like halfway through the second quarter,
Oh,
like it was a rocking chair win.
Yeah, it was a bloodbath.
I'm sorry?
It was a bloodbath, dude.
Bloodbath, yep. And Austin Reed, I'm like, oh my God, I fell in love with this kid. You know, we talk about the transitions that Conference USA goes through every year. UTSA has kind of owned that conference for years, but it's always been Western Kentucky that is kind of that backbone of the conference. You know, they're always going to compete. Bailey Zappi, of course, you know, everybody knows him now. Austin Reed reminds me of Bailey Zappi a lot. Actually, maybe even better. He's got pinpoint accuracy. The kid's got enough arm strength. You know, he's actually being recruited this season to transfer. Some SEC schools were recruiting him, Big Ten schools. Even Florida was recruiting him. You know, him and Grayson McCall might be the best group of 5 quarterbacks out there. As I said, he's got great accuracy and he's got good enough arm strength. Not great arm strength by any means, but he's got good enough. But he's going to come back out and throw the ball over the yard. And Malachi Corley is by far the best receiver in the conference. Actually, he was probably a top 10 receiver in the country last year. Got him back this year. He'll lead the league in receiving yards, and they're going to throw the ball all over the yard. They got some holes to fill on defense, though. They only have 4 starters returning on defense, and me and Jordan were kind of talking off air. That's kind of their Achilles heel, if you will. But we're not even talking about they're probably going to return they are returning probably the best edge rusher in the conference as well, and Jaquee Evans. If you go back and watch that bowl game, it wasn't just the offense that took over. Jaquee Evans took over that game and dominated a really good South Alabama offense. So like I said, I love this team. I am very close to getting to the window on betting them. I wish the number was closer to plus 200 at 2-1. But I love this team to win the Conference USA this year.
Nice. They also adding former USC running back Marquise Stepp.
Oh, that's a that's a nice pickup. Yeah, like AK said, this dude had multiple high 7-figure NIL offers to leave Western Kentucky and jump into the SEC, the Big Ten, and it was an ACC school after him too. Um, Tyson Helton, he's not his brother. Damn good offensive coach. The defense just has to force more turnovers and get off the damn field on third down. I think besides, it was probably, I know there was like bottom 10 or 5 in third down defense. They were one of the worst defenses in the country. So if they can clean that up, get after the passer a little better, force some turnovers, yeah, they could have a breeze through Conference USA play, but you never know what can happen in the championship game.
Yeah, I agree. I think Western Kentucky's. I think they're better than Liberty, who is 9 win total, which we're going to talk about shortly, which I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, Western Kentucky, AK, you said it, like, you know, UTSA has been the fucking the powerhouse of this conference. They're no longer there. Now it's Western Kentucky's time, you know what I mean? So I'm with you on that. I'm with you guys both here. All right. Liberty, last team, 9 wins. Juice to the under as well, minus 130. The overs, even money. Obviously, Jamie Chadwell is the coach here. He comes from Coastal Carolina. We saw what he did with Coastal Carolina, a very, very good team down there in the Sun Belt, the Fun Belt. But he did lose a lot, man. He lost a lot in the transfer portal, and I'm kind of curious as to where you guys are going on Liberty here.
I might be shocked, but I'm gonna go on the limb and say under.
Why?
So, you know, I live here in Lynchburg, so I can't wait to hear Irv's opinion, because I'll tell you what everybody here in Lynchburg is saying.
The reason why I got them going under, they lost a lot of talent, man, and it's hard to replace talent in Conference USA as it is, and they gotta replace like top tier talent that they had last year. Now the offense is going to be good, but I think they're returning what 4 or 5 starters on defense.
They're returning 3 starters on defense.
Yeah, see, that's a recipe for disaster, because that means they either got to play a lot of young guys, or they got to play a lot of guys that's just getting introduced to the system, and it might take them a while to take them a game or two to get their feet up under them. So, I know, guys. I don't know. I don't see 9 wins. I probably see 8. If they could get an upset, I don't know, because Western Kentucky on the road, Middle Tennessee is going to be a thorn in their side because they play defense. And Mexico State is not going to be a pushover.
Also, who are they going to start at quarterback? They starting Salter? They starting Bennett?
Still hasn't been announced yet.
It still hasn't been announced. I think they're going into the season with a 2 QB system, and like the great what's old boy that does what's the name?
Oh, Lee Corso.
Lee Corso. Like the great Lee Corso was said, if you got 2 QBs, you got 0.
That's exactly. You don't have one.
So I don't know, man. Until they get that quarterback position squared away and we see what this defense can be, I got to take the under 9 wins.
So this is what people around town are saying. Mm-hmm. Irv hit the nail on the head. There's going to be quarterback competition, but there's really competition in a lot of positions, because a lot of transfers came in. You mentioned the defense being depleted. Well, also the offense. They got to basically replace running back. You know, they went with a 3 quarterback carousel last year. If you guys watched them at all, they actually at a lot of games were going almost alternating possessions. It was kind of mind numbing there for a while. Chadwell is a phenomenal coach, as you said, Jordan. But the biggest thing is, though, I initially liked under here. But the biggest thing is, man, the schedule allows for an easy transition. Liberty's played the powerhouses, the Arkansas last year, which was a crazy game, by the way, if anybody watched it. They open up with Bowling Green at home, so they should win that game. Yes, New Mexico State's going to be better, and I'm actually on this New Mexico State team, so I'm coming in this year. But that's a winnable game. At Buffalo's a winnable game. At FIU's a winnable game. Before they got Sam Houston coming in, so there's a good chance here they're sitting at 5-0 going to Jacksonville State week 6. So they do got to go on the road at Western Kentucky though, which is always a tough task to ask, and they got to go to Jordan's UTEP Miners at the end of the season. So,
Yep.
I don't really have, like I said, I think the number is probably closer to 8, like it is Western Kentucky. It's just an easy transition for a team that is used to playing FBS, Power 5 schools. It's an easy transition, man, and that's what everybody in Lynchburg's saying. Jamie Chadwell's got an easy transition, so we'll see what happens. But a lot of voids to fill on that team.
Yeah, I do actually agree with that point in the sense that their schedule is a lot easier, but man, it's just tough to see because they're just losing so much, man. And it's like, and then you bring in a whole new system and a whole new quarterback as well. So it's another one of those win totals here that it's like I could see him going over 9 wins. I could also see this being like a 5-6 win team. Although with Jamie Chadwell's with his pedigree and stuff, I don't really foresee them being that bad at all. But man, it's just tough to get to the window with this team, man. Either way, it's tough to get to the window with it. All right, so that's
and I'll say this one more thing, Jordan, that everybody's saying in Lynchburg is Jamie Chadwell's offense is completely different than what this team's been running as well.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of based on a lot of like downhill running things. Reason why Grayson McCall's been so great in that offense is play action looks. He's been awesome off play action in his career. And that's kind of a lot different than the Hugh Freeze kind of Malik Willis, running gun type offense. So I think that takes a little bit of time for transition, even with the weaker schedule. It's harder to transition to a completely new offense. If you're bringing in a guy that ran a similar offense, similar play calls, similar, terminology, it's usually a little bit easier transition too.
I agree. I thought Grayson McCall would end up transferring there, but he did not.
He stayed loyal, man. I was very surprised about that, but I really like Grayson McCall. Yep.
Grayson McCall is good. Nice. All right, so of all these teams, win totals, division odds, bets, give me a bet that you're most comfortable in taking. Not necessarily one that you will take, but of all of this whole conference, what's something that you'd be willing to maybe put some confidence behind?
I'll go Louisiana Tech over the 6.5, and Western Kentucky. If a team can do it, I think they go over 8.5 wins.
Damn, Irv's going 2. Hold on. Let me write this down. So, Irv over Western Kentucky. 8.5.
And over Louisiana Tech.
Over 6.5. Louisiana Tech. AK.
So, like I said, I'm really falling in love with this Western Kentucky team. I haven't got to the window on it yet. Like I said, I was really hoping to get closer to 2-1. I was really surprised to see the odds where they're at. I've seen some like plus 150s out there for Western Kentucky to win the Conference USA Championship. I'd love for it to be more like 2-1, but that's a bet that I would be comfortable saying, hey, I see what you did there. That team is going to be explosive. If that defense can just halfway figure it out, we're not talking about vastly improving. You know what I mean? We're not New Mexico State from 2 years ago needing to go from 41 points a game to 24 points a game, right? A little bit of improvement there. I think Jacquez Evans is going to be one of the best edge rushers, not even in the conference, but probably in the group of 5 total there. Also, too, man, I'm really starting to like this New Mexico State team. With a couple winnable games early on in the schedule, I wouldn't be surprised to see someone going over on New Mexico State wins.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to go New Mexico State, but at minus 150, I'm gonna kind of stay away from there. I'd honestly rather get them at 6 at like minus 115 or even money. You know what I mean? So I'm gonna go over 5.5 wins for UTEP, at minus 115 at DraftKings, and I'm also gonna go 14-1 UTEP to win the conference. You know, like a tenth of a unit. I just, it's a little something. I think that it could play out in their favor the way their conference schedule goes out, dude. I could see them in the conference championship, and then at that point you could hedge your ticket. You know,
Jordan, I don't think it's right that we end this show without talking about a guy that has dominated Conference USA for years and that has made me probably one of the most profitable teams the last 3 or 4 years. Is Frank Harris at UTSA. Man, that you talk about a powerhouse. My goodness. It's been fun to watch.
AAC now.
Yep.
And we'll be talking to AAC next week, right?
Yeah, what was a running back last couple of years too? I think his last name was McCormick, but Frank Harris and McCormick, those guys were monsters, man. That team was just a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, but the key thing we got to watch out for, they are replacing the OC. So how is that going to work out?
Yep.
Yeah, once you start winning, dude, you're going to lose coaches and players. And I'm surprised Frank Harris came back, to be honest. I thought he could have gone to the next level, although he did have a really poor showing in the bowl game. So, man, remember that game? Holy shit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, Jordan, but I'm pretty sure that was a brutal game. I think I was on the other side, and wasn't it just like a nasty, like 17-14 game or something crazy?
It was
disgusting. The over-under for that game was like 69.5.
Yep. Well, whoever they were playing,
UAB.
I'm not looking it up right.
Wasn't it UAB?
Yep.
Yeah. Was it UAB? No, it was Troy. It was Troy.
No, Troy, yes. So I was on Troy in that game, and Troy's defense was actually very good last year. If you watched college football at all last year, you knew how good Troy's defense was. Yep. So the kind of lead up to that game was UTSA's high-powered offense versus Troy's defense, and defense definitely prevailed in that game.
Well, there's a lot of questionable calls.
I remember this now. Too. The line kept flipping.
For like 3 days, dude.
I'm pretty sure Troy opened. I'm going to say Troy opened at like plus 3.5 or something like that. The line moved I remember all this now. UTSA moved to like a 4.5 point favorite before kickoff.
Yep.
And I got Troy like plus 4.5 or 3.5. And they ended up winning like a 17-12 just slot fest game or whatever the score was.
Yeah, and UTSA drove.
I know this is off topic, but who y'all got? Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in the UFC?
Zuckerberg's been training, man. He's ready for it.
The Zuck will destroy Elon Musk.
But I'm not laying juice with Zuck or Elon Musk. So both those assholes can kiss my ass.
Amen to that. Yeah, man, that bowl game was wild last year, dude. That was pain because when it
that was one of the worst bowl games of the season.
When it flipped to Troy as the favorite, we bet UTSA as a dog. And then the next morning we wake up and UTSA is the favorite. We're like, oh shit, like we got a good number.
I've never seen line movement like that. I don't know why that it didn't trigger in my head until you guys were saying that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember now. And it just was crazy line movement all like for like 36 hours.
And if you don't
Troy's defense.
If you remember, UTSA drove the ball down like every time they had it, and Frank Harris had like 4 interceptions in the red zone, dude.
Red zone, that shit was terrible.
It was
I'm like, yeah, he better go back to school because he just made himself an undrafted free agent.
I'll tell you one bowl game that I unfortunately was on the wrong side of last year that a line kept moving around on was the Baylor Air Force game.
We were all on Air Force.
We stayed away from that shit.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was on Baylor, so. Yeah.
Oh man, I was like, that game is either going to be all bad or all good. I was like, nah, it's too.
So the handicap that I have in my head now that I just know that I kind of forgot about in that game was a team like Baylor out of the Big 12 that didn't have a great year. They kind of underachieved for most of the year. They've got to go on the road, on a bowl game 30 days after their football season ended and go prepare for the freaking triple option, 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense, man. It just doesn't happen. That's why the Navies and the Armies and the Air Forces do so well in bowl games is kind of what you guys mentioned earlier about going on the road again, right? After being on the road the week before in a hard fought game. Every game you play against the military schools is a hard fought game, especially for your linemen.
Yep.
Definitely.
And remember they had
they cutting everything that move.
Remember they had that historical freeze in that game too. It was like negative. It was like 15 degrees in Texas in that game. It was freezing ass cold.
I'll be honest. UVA about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe 2017, finally makes a bowl. You know, we kind of made it through the London years. And it was the second year of the Bronco Mendenhall year. We go 6-6 with Ben Kirk at quarterback. I'm like, okay, here we go. We're going to the Military Bowl, which is in Maryland, not too far from here. It was probably negative 10 degrees outside that day. One of my buddies' famous quote was, because like outside the stadium, there's like burn barrels, right? And they're just like burning trash outside the parking lot, and people are just hovering around it. And he's like, there's not enough fireball in the state of Maryland, you know, to warm anybody up, right? And UVA, Joe Reed runs the opening kickoff for a touchdown. And I'm like, oh my gosh, here we are. UVA doesn't score a touchdown the rest of the game, loses like 62-7 against Navy.
Jesus. Well, AK, you come to the West Coast, you don't have to deal with those freezing temperatures. I can promise you that. We got the nice weather. All right, so just to recap, over 8.5, Western Kentucky, over 6.5 for Louisiana Tech. AK is Western Kentucky plus 150 to win the conference, and then I'm on over 5.5 for UTEP and plus 1,400 UTEP to win the conference.
Final score of that game was 49-7, by the way, boys.
49-7.
Yep.
What conference do we have next week? Is it AAC or we got Mountain West?
Yes, yeah, American. Yep.
So the American Conference next week we'll be talking more Frank Harris and UTSA for sure, as they are now in the American Conference. Thank you everybody for joining us. We'll be back. I'll be back tomorrow night with AK. We'll be breaking down some baseball for Saturday. And I'll be back with Ervin and Big Ball and Ben Larson on Sunday. We'll be recapping the week in sports, the week that was, talking a lot of action. And man, we appreciate y'all for hanging out with us. Make sure to go to youtube.com/@taproomsportspodcast. Like, subscribe, get all the notifications. Twitch.tv/taproomsports. Go follow us on Twitter @taproom_sports. You can follow AK @AKSports90. Follow Ervin @SwervinIrvin TSP. Follow myself @JordanRulesTSP. Thank y'all. We will see y'all later. It's time to grind out that college football, baby. Let's go.